Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric. It's a very fun and very exciting day today because earlier this morning, SRG320 updated the Sega Saturn core and forked the STV or Sega Titan Video implementation into its own brand new core, which is out now on MiSTer Discord servers under the Saturn channel. And that means that STV is going to be its own core moving forward, and by removing a lot of the CD-ROM logic that isn't required on STV, there's going to be a lot more room for improvements and other things within the arcade variant. So I'm going to teach you how to set it all up today so you can start playing the large majority of the Sega Titan video library, because there's some awesome exclusives and some games that run better on STV than on the actual Saturn. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. And a note about this tutorial, I want you guys not to skip around. Every single video I do a tutorial on, somebody will ask me a question and it'll be within the video and they'll just say, oops, I skipped ahead. These are made in a linear fashion, so please do just kind of follow along. To start, we're going to have two files, and we'll get into the STV BIOS later in the video. You're going to grab the core from MiSTer Discord channel in the pins on the Saturn chat, and you're going to go ahead and rename that to saturn.rbf, but make a copy of the file and call it st-v.rbf, because it may change in the future, so I'm going to future-proof this for you. Additionally, I will leave a link below. You need to grab the MRA files. That way you're going to be able to launch every single STV game that currently works from the arcade menu on your MiSTer FPGA. Inside of this folder is going to be _st-v, and I'll explain exactly what folder you're going to move over in a little bit, but be aware that it is sensitive to the folder structure. If you go into the _jp BIOS, you're going to have MRA files for all of the games in their Japanese versions, because there are different ROM files depending on which region you're going to be playing in. And as far as the games you want to add, if it works in MAME as a zip, it's going to work here on MiSTer FPGA, and you'll see these games right now are in zip files. As far as how to find the games, that's completely up to you. You should be dumping them from your original STV cartridges, but trust me when I say, even if some of these games are on Sega Saturn, they're a metric ton of fun on the STV. There are some changes to some games, there are some exclusives, and some games perform better and have better actual gameplay on the STV. So you'll see here in the root directory of your MiSTer FPGA, the first thing we're going to do is go into _arcade. This is where we're going to put those MRA files as well as the RBF we just renamed. Go into the core folder, and if you scroll down, you'll see here, I've obviously been testing this for a while, so I have a saturn.rbf file. I'll just delete that for the tutorial. When you have the files you need, and like I said, we're going to make a copy, you're going to have saturn.rbf as well as st-v.rbf. You're going to copy those two files into the arcade's cores folder. Right now st-v is just going to be sitting there doing nothing, but if they change the naming conventions in the future, it'll automatically find that core and everything will continue to run with no issues whatsoever. Now go into the stv-mra folder, and we're going to copy _st-v over to the SD card. Do not copy over the root folder or else it will not find anything, and you're going to put that in the _arcade folder. You'll see here I have already done that for you. It'll be the first time, but if you've done it before and you're updating the MRA files, just go ahead and overwrite everything. That is the procedure. So now within the _arcade folder, we have an _st-v folder with all of the different MRA files, and that nested Japanese folder in there as well for all of the different variants. And then you'll have your saturn.rbf and your st-v.rbf in the cores folder. Now it is the where to put the games. Do not put them in the Sega Saturn folder. I know that's going to be your first instinct. You are not going to launch them from there. The game is not going to be found there. The MRA files are going to point to a different folder, and that is going to be MAME. This is where you're going to put all the zip files for the different STV games you want to play, and additionally it's also going to be where we're going to put the STV bios.zip file so that the actual core can find the appropriate BIOS for the game. Within the MRA files, it's going to auto-select the BIOS that is appropriate, and if for any reason you see this screen right here, it just means you need to pop into the Japanese folder, which I will show you in just a few minutes. This is basically the you have the wrong region selected screen for that splash. So we have stb bios.zip. You're going to have to find this yourself again, and we're going to go ahead and copy that from wherever it is on your desktop, and we're going to paste it into the game's MAME folder. For me, it would be an overwrite. I already have it. For you, it's probably going to be the first time. Just make sure it's in there, or else none of these games are going to boot. From there, we'll go ahead back to wherever you downloaded everything. We'll select the games we want to move over, and we'll copy them as well. And then you're just going to go ahead and drag and drop them or paste them into the game's MAME folder. Again, not the Saturn folder. Do not get tripped up here. watch the video from start to finish and you won't make that mistake, because I'm assuming some people are going to comment and say, I put the games in the Saturn folder and they're not working. So to actually boot the games, you're going to go into the arcade folder, and then you're going to see that ST-V or Sega Titan Video folder that we just copied over to our MiSTer FPGA. When you open that up, all of the games are going to be here, and then you're going to have the Japanese BIOS specific games nested within that secondary folder that we talked about. Go ahead and select whatever game you want, as long as the STV bios.zip file is in the main folder, all the MRAs are in the right place, and you have the actual core, the RBF file, copied into the cores folder under arcade. It is going to boot up. The only other thing you're going to need to do is bind your controls, but there is a note about that as well. Currently, all of the nomenclature and names for all of the controls are going to be Saturn based. There is going to be a coin button, but everything else is going to be R and L. All of those buttons you would see on Saturn. There's not going to be a service and test button labeled. Make sure you assign A, B, and C to the face. That's basically how you're going to be playing the game. Start and coin can be select and start on your controller, and then some of those additional buttons are going to get you into the test menu and give you a service button to navigate around. Because again, if you've never played arcade games before, you might not be aware, but there is no options menu within these titles. You have to go into the test menu and game assignments to really change up how the game is going to play. And I love that I basically lost this match by putting my foot down first on that ring out. That's the type of thing about Virtual Fighter Remix. Sometimes you're going to lose a match you're winning because of the timing. And if you find any of these games too difficult off their normal difficulty, because again, it is an arcade game and it will be slightly harder, that's when you need to pop into the test menu using the test and service button we just bound to different keys. You're going to go ahead and basically be able to use the service button and test button to move up and down and select. Go ahead and select the game that you booted up and hit test. This is going to bring you into a test menu. They're all going to look different depending on the game. If you want to change the game's options, you're going to go into game assignments. From here, you can articulate the difficulty on every single arcade game. You can go ahead and change the language if you so want, change the rounds out for Virtual Fighter Remix. This is where all of the options for a particular STV game you boot up are going to be. When you change them to your liking, go ahead and hit exit twice. The core will basically boot again without actually resetting, and you'll be back into the game with the settings that you just picked adhered over. I'm not quite sure at this point in time if it's actually saving those settings or not, so definitely check the next time you boot up the game to see if they persist. I just forgot to actually check that when I was capturing this footage, and now we're playing Virtual Fighter Remix as Lau, and I'm playing it on easy difficulty just to explain to you how these changes actually happen. So remember, the service and test menu for the game cartridge is going to be very important when you're actually playing around. If you want to load up a new game, just go to Core and pick the next game you want to play. It'll boot up like everything is perfectly normal. And again, if you follow the tutorial at this point in time, you will be 100% fine. You can play exclusive like funky headed boxers here. It's an absolutely wild game. I'm not saying it is a hidden gem. It is just a strange title, but it's something that you can play on the STV core. Now, if you see the following warning screen, it just means that you aren't in the right region folder. Let's try to boot up something like Winter Heat. You're going to see operation of this cartridge is unavailable with system assignments. Now you can play around with the system assignments, or you can also just go into the menu and go ahead and select the Japanese variant MRA file that I explained before. If you see this screen pop up where it just gives you the Sega Titan video splash screen, that means there is an incorrect setting in 99 out of 100 times. The Japanese folder is going to go ahead and fix that for you. So if you just pop back into the on-screen menu here and you go ahead and select the actual Japanese folder and then relaunch the game, it should work perfectly fine. Just go into cores, go up, pick JP BIOS and select the same game, and it should be booting in totally fine. And that's the thing, most of these games aren't going to be sensitive to that whatsoever, but if you find a title that is giving you some hell launching, just go into the Japanese folder and go ahead and try to launch it from there, and it should work totally fine, just like you see Winter Heat working here. And that is basically in essence how you get STV set up on your MiSTer FPGA. I will also leave a link in the description below for scripts that will auto update this for you, but you have to basically make it an executable with some commands on MiSTer, and honestly, if you know how to do that, you probably don't need a tutorial on how to set up STV in the first place. If you followed along, you know where to put the cores, you know that we're making 2 cores in the folder, you know where to put the MRA files, you know where to put the BIOS file, and you know where to put the games to be able to play STV today, because it's its own brand new core outside of Sega Saturn, and that is amazing. If you have any questions, leave them down below, but we're done. Go play some STV. Bye-bye.